You've been alive for thousands of days. You've laughed, cried, learned to walk, spoken your first words, fallen over, gotten back up, and slowly become the person you are today. But if I asked you one simple question, what happened on your second birthday? You probably couldn't tell me. Not because you weren't there, not because nothing happened, but because your brain erased almost every trace of it. Think about that for a second. The most important years of your life, the years that built your personality, taught you language, and shaped the way you see the world, are almost completely inaccessible. It's as if someone deleted the opening chapters of your life story. Why? Did your brain fail? Or was forgetting actually one of the smartest things evolution ever invented? Because the truth isn't just stranger than most people realize, it's changing how neuroscientists think about memory itself. Close your eyes for a moment and try something. Picture your very first memory. Maybe it's blowing out birthday candles. Maybe you're sitting in the backseat of a car. Maybe you're running through your grandparents' house. Whatever appeared in your mind, you were probably around 3 or 4 years old. That's not a coincidence. Across cultures, languages, and continents, most people's earliest memories begin somewhere between the ages of 3 and 4. Everything before that fades into an almost impenetrable fog. Psychologists even have a name for this phenomenon: infantile amnesia. Despite the name, it isn't a disease. It isn't memory loss. It's something every healthy human experiences, and that's what makes it so strange. Because before the age of 3, your brain wasn't inactive. It was doing the exact opposite. Imagine meeting someone who learns an entirely new language without ever opening a textbook. They recognize hundreds of faces. They figure out how emotions work. They learn gravity through trial and error. They discover depth, distance, balance, pain, trust, fear, affection, and cause and effect. They master one of the most complicated skills in existence, walking. And they accomplish all of that in just a few years. That person exists, it was you. In fact, you'll never learn as much as quickly as you did during your first years of life. Your adult brain isn't even close. Every second, your infant brain was absorbing information at a breathtaking pace. It learned which sounds belonged to language, which faces were safe, which expressions meant danger, which actions earned comfort, which ones brought pain. It was collecting data faster than it ever would again, which creates an obvious question. If babies are learning more than anyone else, why don't they remember any of it? For a long time, scientists thought the answer was simple. Maybe babies just couldn't make memories. It sounded reasonable. After all, their brains were still developing. Their thoughts were simple. Their understanding of the world was limited. Perhaps memories simply couldn't form yet. There was just one problem. The evidence refused to cooperate. Researchers began running experiments on infants. Some were only a few months old. The results were surprising. Babies could recognize familiar faces after long periods apart. They remembered voices, they anticipated routines. Some experiments even showed infants remembering specific actions weeks after seeing them only once. That shouldn't have been possible if babies couldn't form memories. So the old explanation began to fall apart. The memories clearly existed, at least for a while, which led scientists to a far more unsettling possibility. Maybe your first memories weren't impossible to create. Maybe they simply didn't survive. Imagine building the world's largest library. Every day, thousands of new books arrive, but instead of simply placing them on empty shelves, workers constantly tear down entire sections, move the shelves, change the floor plan, and rebuild the building while visitors are still inside. If you came back weeks later, you might discover that the book you remembered checking out no longer sits where it once did. Not because the book was never there, but because the library itself has changed. Your early brain works in a surprisingly similar way. During infancy, your brain isn't just storing information, it's rebuilding itself almost continuously. New connections appear, old ones disappear. Entire networks reorganize. It's less like writing files onto a finished hard drive, and more like trying to write a diary while the pages are still being printed. The question wasn't whether babies could create memories. The real mystery was something much stranger. Could a rapidly growing brain accidentally destroy the very memories it had just created? As impossible as that sounds, modern neuroscience suggests the answer may be yes. And the reason lies in one of the most remarkable processes happening inside every baby's brain. A process so powerful that it may have traded your earliest memories for the ability to become who you are today. To understand why your earliest memories disappeared, you first have to meet one of the most extraordinary abilities of the human brain. It's called neurogenesis. For most of the 20th century, scientists believed something surprising. They thought you were born with all the brain cells you'd ever have, lose one, and it was gone forever. But in the late 1990s, that idea began to crumble. Researchers found evidence that, even in adults, certain parts of the brain continue producing new neurons throughout life. The discovery completely changed neuroscience. But here's the part that matters. If adults produce a small number of new neurons, babies produce them at an astonishing rate. During infancy, your brain isn't simply getting larger, it's under construction. Every day, millions of new neural connections form. Old pathways are strengthened. Others disappear. Entire circuits are rewritten as your brain learns what matters and what doesn't. Imagine trying to memorize a map of a city, while that city is constantly demolishing streets, adding highways, moving buildings, and changing every address overnight. Even if you remembered yesterday's route perfectly, it might no longer exist tomorrow. Your infant brain wasn't a finished machine storing memories. It was the machine being built. And that changes everything. Hidden deep inside your brain sits a tiny structure shaped like a curved seahorse. It's called the hippocampus. Almost every memory you consciously remember begins here. Your first day of school, your favorite vacation, the face of your best friend, the smell of your grandmother's cooking, before these experiences become long-term memories. The hippocampus acts like a temporary workspace. Think of it as your brain's editor. It decides what deserves to be kept, what can be ignored, and where important experiences should eventually be stored across the cortex. Without a functioning hippocampus, forming new episodic memories becomes almost impossible. But here's where infancy becomes fascinating. The hippocampus is one of the few places where neurogenesis is especially active. In adults, this remodeling happens slowly. In babies, it's happening at breathtaking speed. Imagine trying to build an intricate sandcastle, while someone keeps adding fresh buckets of sand to the foundation. Eventually, the original structure begins to shift. Not because anyone intended to erase it, but because the ground beneath it never stopped changing. Researchers now believe something similar may happen to early memories. As new neurons become integrated into the hippocampus, they can alter the neural circuits that originally encoded those early experiences. The memories aren't necessarily deleted like files on a computer. Instead, the pathways that once allowed you to access them become increasingly difficult to reconstruct. It's less like burning a book and more like losing the map that tells you where the book is hidden. For decades, this idea remained little more than an intriguing hypothesis. Then scientists decided to test it. Not in humans, but in mice. Why mice? Because their brains develop in ways remarkably similar to ours, just much faster. Young mice were taught simple tasks they clearly remembered. But as their brains continued producing large numbers of new neurons, those memories faded astonishingly quickly. Then researchers tried something different. They slowed neurogenesis. Suddenly, the young mice held onto those memories much longer. Even more surprising, when adult mice were encouraged to produce unusually high levels of new neurons, they began forgetting older memories more easily as well. It was one of the strongest pieces of evidence yet that memory and brain growth exist in a delicate balance. The brain wasn't forgetting because it was broken. It was forgetting because it was changing. Of course, mice aren't humans. Human memory is far more complex, and scientists are still debating exactly how much neurogenesis explains infantile amnesia. Other factors, like the maturation of language, a developing sense of self, and the changing organization of memory networks, almost certainly play important roles too. But one thing has become increasingly clear. Your earliest memories didn't simply vanish because your brain was immature. They disappeared while your brain was becoming something far more powerful. At first, this sounds like terrible design. Why would evolution spend years helping you create experiences, only to let you lose access to them? It feels wasteful, almost cruel. But evolution has never cared about preserving every memory. It cares about survival. Imagine if your brain permanently stored every single sensation from every day of your life. Every sound, every smell, every glance, every heartbeat, every leaf you ever saw, every conversation you've ever overheard. You wouldn't have a better memory. You'd have an impossible one. Your brain would drown in details. Instead, the human brain is built to extract patterns. Not every individual moment, but the lessons hidden inside those moments. You don't remember every time someone smiled at you as a baby, but your brain learned what safety feels like. You don't remember every failed attempt to stand, but your nervous system mastered balance. You don't remember hearing thousands of words, yet somehow you learned an entire language. The individual memories faded, the learning remained. And perhaps that was the goal all along. Imagine being offered two choices. You can remember every moment of your first 3 years, or you can have a brain optimized to learn faster than almost any other animal on Earth. Evolution appears to have chosen the second option. Your earliest memories became the price of building a brain capable of language, culture, creativity, and civilization itself. You lost the story, but you kept everything the story taught you. And once you realize that, forgetting no longer feels like a flaw. It starts to look like one of evolution's greatest inventions. But there's one final mystery. If those memories are gone, why do those first years still influence almost everything about the person you become? How can experiences you can't consciously remember continue shaping your fears, your relationships, and even your personality decades later? The answer may be the strangest part of this story, because your earliest memories may be gone, but your earliest experiences never really left. If your earliest memories disappeared, why do they still matter? Because your brain stores more than just memories. It stores patterns. Long before you could describe the world, your brain was quietly learning what kind of world it was. Was it safe? Was it predictable? Were people comforting or frightening? Could your cries bring someone close? Or would no one come at all? You may never consciously remember those moments, but your brain does. Not as stories, but as expectations. Scientists call these implicit memories. Unlike the memories of your first bicycle ride or your favorite teacher, implicit memories don't replay in your mind like scenes from a movie. Instead, they become part of the operating system running silently in the background. You don't remember learning how to recognize your mother's face, yet you instantly know what a human face looks like. You don't remember thousands of failed attempts to balance on two legs, yet your body performs that miracle every single day without asking permission. The experiences vanished, the lessons remained. It's one of the strangest paradoxes in human life. The years you remember least may have shaped you the most. Think about building a skyscraper. No one walks into the finished building and admires the concrete buried beneath the ground. They notice the glass, the lights, the height, the view from the top. But none of those things could exist without the foundation hidden below. Your first years of life are that foundation. You can't see them. You can't revisit them. You can't remember them. But every thought you've ever had, every friendship, every fear, every ambition was built on top of a brain that took shape during those forgotten years. It's almost poetic. The most important construction project of your life is the one you'll never witness. This is where the story becomes bigger than memory. Every species has evolved trade-offs. Cheetahs became incredibly fast, but tire quickly. Owls developed extraordinary night vision, but struggle in bright daylight. Humans evolved something different, an incredibly flexible brain. Instead of arriving in the world fully programmed, we spend years learning. Language, culture, relationships, technology, cooperation. No other species depends on learning quite the way we do. But that flexibility came with a cost. A brain constantly rebuilding itself couldn't preserve every early experience with perfect clarity. To become adaptable, we first had to become forgetful. It's a strange bargain. Evolution didn't choose between memory and forgetting, it chose between remembering everything and becoming everything. Naturally, this raises one final question. Are those memories really gone forever? Or are they simply hidden somewhere deep inside the brain? The honest answer is, we don't know. Neuroscientists still debate exactly what happens to our earliest memories. Some believe fragments may persist in altered forms. Others think many memory traces are eventually dismantled as the developing brain reorganizes itself. What everyone agrees on is that there is currently no reliable way to recover genuine episodic memories from infancy. Sometimes people believe they've remembered being a baby, but our brains are surprisingly good at constructing memories from family stories, old photographs, and imagination. The human mind doesn't just remember the past. Sometimes it quietly rewrites it, which makes the mystery even more fascinating. Your earliest years may be the most influential period of your entire life, and also the least accessible. Imagine opening a novel, only to discover the first 3 chapters have been torn out. At first it feels incomplete, frustrating, unfair, but as the story unfolds, you realize something. Those missing chapters are still there. Every decision the characters make, every relationship, every triumph, every mistake was shaped by events you never got to read. Your life works the same way. You don't remember your first laugh, your first step, the first time someone held your hand, the first word you ever understood. Those moments are gone. Yet without them, the person watching this video wouldn't exist. Maybe forgetting isn't a flaw in the human brain. Maybe it's the price we pay for having a brain capable of becoming something extraordinary. Because in the end, your earliest memories didn't disappear without leaving a trace. They became you. The human brain is full of mysteries like this, things you experience every day without ever realizing why they happen. If you enjoy exploring the hidden science, forgotten history, and evolutionary stories that quietly shaped who we are, make sure to subscribe. Every week, we uncover another mystery that changes the way you'll see yourself and the world around you. And now I'm curious about you. What's the earliest memory you can clearly remember? How old were you? Let me know in the comments below. You might be surprised by how similar or different our forgotten beginnings really are. Until next time, thanks for watching.